Hi there, welcome. My name is Erin, and today I am going to try my hardest to replicate this really cool piece of concept art made by Eyvind Earle for Walt Disney's 1959 classic Sleeping Beauty. And I've decided, instead of talking through my process, which I'll write about in the description below, I would share with you the story of Eyvind Earle. His life was quite interesting, and I always love hearing about and learning about what inspires artists, especially artists that were as prolific and passionate as Eyvind was. Now, learning about his family, I'm not surprised he was an artist. He was born in 1916 to a family of creatives, and both of his parents were very dedicated to their craft. His mom was a concert pianist, and his dad was a painter and filmmaker, and they really encouraged Eyvind's creativity. Sadly, when he was quite young, both he and his brother contracted polio, and his brother didn't survive. Not only did Eyvind lose his brother, who he was very close to, but he also lost the use of the right side of his face. It was paralyzed because of the polio. And this left Eyvind feeling a lot of shame around how he looked, which is really sad. He was afraid to let people see him, so he spent almost all of his time alone, but he spent that time out in nature working on plein air paintings and drawings. So he really dived into his art making. So by the time he was, only 10 years old, he was already an accomplished painter. And then the second big event happened in his life. His father actually kidnapped him when he was about 13 years old and told the mom that he was taking him on a trip to Palm Springs, but instead took him to Mexico. And while they were there, for the few years that they lived there, his dad forced Eyvind to paint every single day. He told him he had to make one painting every day, as well as create poetry. So this was a practice that stuck with Eyvind for the rest of his life. And a few years later, Eyvind actually left his dad and moved to France, where he had his first exhibition when he was 14 years old. He stayed in France for a few more years, soaking up the culture and getting inspired by the new landscapes and architecture. But he was motivated to head back to the States because of the Depression. So in the 1930s, the Depression hit, and his mom was in a financial sort of crisis. And so Eyvind went back home and he started to design Christmas cards. And he, in the end, did over 800 different designs for Christmas cards. He actually started a business with a friend. During that time, he also took this pivotal bike trip from California to New York to visit family there. And during that bike trip, he continued to create at least one painting every day. And just imagine all the scenery he was soaking up, as he biked across the States. Now, in the 1940s, World War II hit, and he joined the Navy. During that time, he continued to paint every day. And when he came home, he met his first wife, and they had a kid. So this was when he realized, he needed to get a real job, as they say, and he started to work for an architectural firm. And it was there that his style started to shift into something a little more clean and modern looking. And you can actually see that new style showing itself in the backgrounds of the 1951 Disney short called For Whom the Bulls Toil. And that was the beginning of his career with Disney. So he left the architectural firm, started to work on backgrounds for Disney. And in 1953, he created the look, the aesthetic for the Academy Award-winning short Toot, Whistle, Plunk, and Boom. It's a great title. It was all about the lives of instruments. And it was Eyvind's artful aesthetic vision that helped that animation win the award. Now, throughout the 1950s, as he's working for Disney, he's also getting to know artist Mary Blair, who had been working at Disney all throughout the 1940s. She had been there a while already, and she had established herself as, the high concept, really creative, outsider artist working there as the background conceptual artist, but also as an art director. She was in charge of a lot of the color palettes that were being used. And both Eyvind and Disney were really impressed with her creativity. And so Eyvind combined her simplified modern sort of mid-century style with his own classic fine art sensibilities. And you can really see that combination in the backgrounds of Peter Pan, which they both worked on. The next film that Eyvind worked on was Lady and the Tramp. He was responsible for the scene known as Bella Notte, which is the date. Lady and the Tramp have already had their spaghetti, you know, they had that kiss, and now they're walking through the park at night, and it's gorgeous. The trees, we start to really see, you know, Eyvind Earle's stylized trees, but they're all in silhouette. And then you've got the deep blue sky and these glowing lanterns throughout the scene. The whole thing is so romantic, and it's so inviting and has such a different mood than the rest of the movie. So it really stood out, and as a kid, I was entranced. That's the best word I can use. And it informed me as an artist. You know, to this day, I absolutely love that look of these glowing warm colors against a darker background. And then Eyvind was asked to be the art director and lead concept artist for Sleeping Beauty. This was a huge undertaking. Disney was determined to make this the most beautiful animation to date. So it actually took 6 years to complete the film. And Disney allowed Eyvind as much time as he needed to really fulfill his vision. And you know, Disney was stoked when as he was seeing the work that was coming out. But the animators were getting really irritated because Disney kept pushing them to make their animation smoother and more beautiful so that it could live up to the backgrounds. As I'm painting these trees here, you know, I'm thinking about how Eyvind set a mood, set the atmosphere that really stood out in both that scene Bella Notte, but also throughout Sleeping Beauty. Sleeping Beauty is still my favorite Disney film. When I was a little kid, again, I was about 6 years old when they re-released it, and it just totally blew me away. I wanted to live in that world. The way he uses these silhouetted trees, similar to Lady and the Tramp, it creates this sense that you're in this darker area and you're looking out onto this vista that's being bathed in sunlight. You know, in Lady and the Tramp, it was all nocturnal, but this is a scene where you feel like you're in the dark looking out to that castle, which is in the light. And so it really adds to the narrative aspect of his work. And also the use of color, so these sort of mauves and yellows, it evokes a dreamlike, romanticized version of reality. And I think that's what I was drawn to as a kid. I really wanted to live in that world. Sadly, Eyvind quit before the movie was released, and I learned that someone in charge decided that his backgrounds, a lot of them were too detailed, that they were taking away from the animation. So this person had the backgrounds smoothed out. A lot of them lost their detail. But you can still appreciate Eyvind's work when you're watching Sleeping Beauty, and I highly recommend seeing it if you haven't. It's just breathtaking. The backgrounds, the stylized trees and landscapes, the sense of light, the sense of magic, really. Especially, you know, that scene at the end when her dress is changing color. I love that. Anyway, I wanted to thank the subscriber who requested that I do an Eyvind Earle tree painting. I learned so much replicating this piece of concept art. So thank you, Eyvind, for, you know, inspiring me. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope you enjoyed it.